早点传师、甜点传师、菜点传师各位真贤，大家好，暗暝。今仔暗要搁甲咱扯背四道是要甲咱讲解心经内容的意思是咱的陈月云讲师，Master Joe、Master Tian and Master Chai and all Taokins, good evening. Tonight, with the compassion of our lecturer Chen, will explain to us the meaning of the Heart Sutra. 咱顺着来邀请咱的陈讲师甲咱扯背四道。Now let us invite our lecturer Chen for her compassionate guidance together with Sister Swan Swan for the translation.
各位点传师、各位大主、各位真言大德，大家好暗暝。那日学占着天伦师德，甲点传师的慈悲，使我学这个了愿的机会，来用白话讲解《法婆罗蜜多心经》。
Tonight, we are very lucky because of heaven's grace and because of compassion of our Tian Chansi that I have this chance to share with each other the discussion of Xingqing, the Heart Sutra.
咱即马就开始来解说吼。
Let us start the discussion right now.
婆罗蜜多心经，咱为讲解伊的题目开始吼，所以头一部分是识图的，是讲解伊的即个经吼经的题目。
So first, let us all start with the discussion of the title of the Heart Sutra.
这部心经呢，伊是由梵文 Sanskrit， 也就是古早印度文伊写的，大约是咧1000多年前吼，翻译做中文。
This Heart Sutra was written in the Sanskrit, which is an ancient Indian script, and was translated into Chinese about 1,000 years ago.
其中呢，有一寡字甲名词吼，伊的意思是中文内底拢无的。
Some of the meanings of the characters and the phrases in the Heart Sutra are not found in the Chinese language.
有一寡呢，中文内底伊有差不多即个意思甲伊的词，但是呢，伊的意思并无完全相同。
While some Chinese words have similar meanings to these characters and phrases, but the meaning is not exactly the same.
所以呢，那即种情形呢，翻译的人伊就保留伊本来古印度文的音，也就是梵文，比如讲法热甲婆罗蜜多。
So in this case, the translator of the sutra will retain the original ancient Indian sound, also known as the Sanskrit sounds, such as prajna and paramita.
这部心经，伊是专门咧讲心的道理，甲佛法内底真实的道理。
This Heart Sutra is devoted to the teachings of the heart and the real teachings in Buddhism.
法热，伊是读做吼，国语是讲般若吼，注音是照国语是读做般若，咱台语是读法热，伊是翻译古印度文内底的般若，就是这样 prajna。中文的意思是智慧。
Pura is prajna, which is a Sanskrit word. It is an ancient Indian language, which means wisdom.
法热虽然是咧讲智慧，但是甲咱世界上咱普通所讲的聪明智慧是无相款。
Although prajna is said to be, it's said to mean wisdom, but it is not the same as the ordinary intelligence in this world.
所以呢，为着要方便互大家理解，也有人咧讲解的时阵，就讲破类，伊甲头前搁加一字，就是大智慧、大智慧，或者是加一字妙，或者妙智慧，安尼呢，来甲咱普通所讲的智慧呢，即个聪明智慧呢，有一个区别的所在。
Therefore, in order to facilitate the understanding of this word, prajna is also called great wisdom or mystical wisdom, in order to distinguish it from the secular wisdom from this world.
世间的聪明才智呢，伊是在生活中运用于咱办代志啦、做生意啦等等，所以呢，有时呢，伊会使用一寡手段，会有一寡计谋啦、竞争啦等等，安尼呢，无形中破坏着咱社会的和谐、和谐和谐，但是有时嘛是会影响到道德。
When the ingenuity of the world are used in doing things, in making a living, or in doing business, and etc., there will be methods and strategies and even competitions that is added into it. Soon, because of this, the human beings will fall into the cycle of cause and effect.
那安尼呢，无形中，咱人呢，就会对入落去因果循环、生死轮流的这个六道轮回来对。
So, human beings will fall into the six realms of the cycle of birth and death without even knowing it.
有一寡较有智慧的人咧，虽然因已经了解到善有善报、恶有恶报。
There are people who have the wisdom to understand that what goes around comes around, or good will be rewarded with good and evil will be rewarded with evil.
所以呢，因真乖就对啦，因真乖，真咧遵守着诸恶莫作，众善奉行。
They are diligent in following the rule that says, do all things that are good, or and do nothing that is evil, or create no evil and cultivate all good.
但是呢，因也无想到讲，在咧世间这个轮回呢，真痛苦，因也无想到，所以无想到讲，咱就爱有啥物办法，有法度通好出离这个世间的生死苦海。
And they still have not understood the idea of getting out of the suffering sea of cycle of birth and death in this world. They are still obsessed with the worldly pleasures, and this kind of thinking also belongs to the wisdom of the secular world.
所以呢，大部分的人呢，也个是迷乱伫个世间的享受。那安尼呢？虽然讲是聪明，也个是算讲是咱世俗的聪明智慧，毋是叫做破例。
So since they are still very much obsessed in the worldly pleasures in this world, their wisdom is still a wisdom that belongs to this human world. It is not a wisdom that is called prajna.
破例呢？伊是专门伫咧讲吼，是咧用于正路，正路 是会当咱摕对着明白佛法内底的大道理，会当超生了解的妙智慧，所以直接甲伊翻译做梵语的音啦，无翻译做意思，干那翻做音或做破译。
And Porter or Prajna is specifically used on the right path or the correct path. It is able to clearly understand the great principle of Buddha's Dharma, and it is the mystical wisdom that can enable humans to emancipate the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, it is directly translated into the Sanskrit pronunciation, which is Porter.
Porter 比多呢，翻译或者帕拉米达，中文的意思是到达那边的岸。
So Paramito, which in Sanskrit is paramita, means to reach to the other shore.
Paramit 这个音呢，伊是渡过大河，或者是渡过海的这个渡的意思。
Polomi means to cross the rivers and the seas.
Paramit 的上下尾这个渡，伊是到达的意思。
And the last character of Polomito, which is the to, it means arrival.
若是甲咱这个世界呢，世间，比如或者讲，咱是大海这边的花，就是咱人生生死死受苦的苦恼的世界。
If ever we compare our world to this shore, it refers to the world where humanity suffers from the cycle of birth and rebirth.
所以咱伫个苦恼的世界的这边花，中间还佫有隔着中间还佫有一个大海，有一个广大的大海洋，大海的迄边迄个花，就是李天，就是咱的故家乡。
So we are in this side of the shore where we have to suffer all the hardships and difficulties. And in between, there is a vast ocean. And on the other side of the shore of the ocean is the supreme heaven, which we call the Li Tian, which is our ultimate hometown in heaven.
迄搭呢，李天呢，伊无污染，也无遮尔多像咱这边遮尔多苦，伊只有的呢，就是清净甲光明。
And Li Tian is a place where there is no pollution. It is free from all impurities, and there is brightness.
咱世界上的众生，就是中间呢有过着隔着生死的大苦海，所以咱伫这边呢受尽着种种的苦。
So in this world, all the beings are separated by this suffering sea of birth and death and experiences all kinds of difficulties.
咱无法度会当讲渡着这个大海，转去着迄边的花，迄个无污染，敢若有清净光明的故乡。
And there is no way for us to cross this vast ocean and return to that unpolluted, pure, and bright hometown in the supreme heaven.
咱若是会当转去着李天的故家乡，安尼咱就会做你毋免搁再来地球生死轮回。
If ever we can go back to the hometown of the Supreme Heaven, it is the only way that can free us from being reincarnated again and again here on earth.
观世音菩萨，伊就是看见到众生伫个咱这边，这边的花，这边伫个受苦。
Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, or the goddess of mercy, or the Kuan Yin Pusa, sees all sufferings of the sentient beings on the shore.
所以呢，伊就发到一个大悲心大慈悲心伊看到一顶的大法船，慈悲的大法船，用佛法内底的法律波罗蜜，也就是法律也就是这个用妙智慧。也就是破咧波罗蜜来劝化着咱众人，使咱人人拢会当照着佛法去修行。
Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva expresses great compassion and takes the Dharma ship, or the sail of mercy, and uses the prajna mystical wisdom of the Buddhas Dharma to persuade people, which is the prajna paramita, to enable everyone to cultivate according to the Dharma.
假使咱若会当为这边的苦海的话，这边咱若搭着观世音菩萨伊个大法船，甲坐过伊个大海，去到迄边无污染，敢若有清净光明的理天，安尼呢，咱就是转去到咱理天国家乡咯。
If a cultivator is able to cultivate in this sea of suffering shore, he may then ride on the Dharma ship of the Goddess of Mercy to cross to the other shore, to that pollution-free, calm, and bright shore, which is our hometown of Supreme Heaven.
所以呢，法律波罗蜜多心经这部心经呢，是用法律妙智慧来做大法船，来载着咱众生渡过生死的苦海，转去离天国家乡。
So the Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra uses the Prajna mystical wisdom as the big Dharma ship, and to carry all sentient beings to emancipate from the cycle of birth and death, and to return ultimately to the hometown of the Supreme Heaven.
咱经题，咱就解说到这。咱即马来解说讲翻译这本经，翻译这本经的人。
So we have finished discussing the title of the Heart Sutra. Now let us go on and proceed to discuss and explain to everyone the person who translated this Heart Sutra.
伊是唐朝三藏法师玄奘翻译的。
The Heart Sutra was translated by Great Master Chen.
唐就是伫咧即马1000多年前，伊有一个朝代叫做唐。
Master Xuanzang was also called Tang Sanzang because during that time, Tang was a dynasty of the ancient Chinese, which was 100 years ago. Because during that time, the dynasty was called Tang.
三藏呢是三藏藏经，藏经就是真多的经典，伊收藏起来。 叫做藏经，伊是3种的藏经，这3种分做经藏、律藏、甲论藏、律藏和论藏。
So Sanjang is the collection of different kinds of sutras. It is the triple basket or called the threefold basket. It is a traditional term for the Chinese or the ancient collections of the Buddhist sacred scriptures. And it is composed of 3 main categories of the text that collectively constitute the Buddhist canon. They are Jingzang, 律藏 and 论藏。
经藏是各种释迦牟尼佛所讲的经。
Jingzang are the different sermons that were made by our Buddha Shakyamuni.
律藏是专门伫讲各种境界的规条。
While Lü Zhang focuses on the different rules of discipline or the rules of various prohibitions.
论藏是大法师有真侪大法师因专门伫咧讨论佛经内底佛祖所讲的道理，因讨论了后，搁再发明出来的道理。
论藏are the discussions between great masters about the principles of Buddhism. After the discussion, they will then publish their discussions, and it is called Lun Zang.
法师呢是精通这3种的，这3种经，这3种藏，经藏、律藏、论藏内底的道理的法师。
While a faster or a master is the one who is proficient in the various principles of these 3 Tripitaka, or are called the masters of Tripitaka, or the Sanzang 法师。
所以呢，咱就知影若是干那精通经律甲论无通的，伊就叫做经师，经师，干那精通律叫做律师，干那精通论叫做论师。
So when it is only a sutra of the sermons, it is called the Jingzang. When it is only the sutra that discusses about the rules of the various prohibitions, it is called the Lü Zang.
律
While
师
when
军师律师
律师
军师律师
they are called 律师. While the when the person who can discuss and is very proficient in the discussion of the different prohibitions, he is called the 律师。
论师，论。
While the person, while a master who is good in the discussion of the 论藏, he is called the 论师。
玄奘就是这个是一个人的名，伊是一个公元602年4月初6生，伊活到664年3月初7日。
玄奘was born in the year 602 AD, and he passed away in the year 664 AD.
伊本名叫做陈一，这里读做一，伊伫个真少年的时阵，伊就有法度讲经，讲解经典给大家听，而且呢，伊也讲解得非常的详细。
玄奘 real name is Chen. he was able to explain the Buddhist scriptures to the public when he was still very young, and he spoke in great details.
但是呢，当伊咧翻译的时阵，伊有发觉到讲，不仅会有一寡所在翻译甲无清无楚、不明不白啦。
However, during the course of his translations, he found out that some parts of the Buddhist scriptures were unclearly translated.
或者是伊翻译的讲法无一定的标准，
Or he found out that in the translations, there was no certain standards in doing the translations.
所以呢，伊就决定要去印度留学。
Because of what he found out about the translations, he decided to go abroad to India to study more.
然后呢，再个带一寡经典转来翻译。
And from India, he would plan to bring back to China some sutras and classics for translation.
所以伊就向太宗唐太宗嘅皇帝伊来报告这件代志。
So he reported his plans and asked permission from Emperor Taizong.
所以伫咧唐太宗贞观3年，公元630年8月，太宗皇帝就派伊去印度取经。
So in August of the 3rd year of the Emperor Taizong, that was on the 600 AD, Emperor Taizong sent him on a pilgrimage to India to gather and learn the Buddhist scriptures.
当玄奘出发了后，去到济宾国，济宾国就是咧即马北印度，咧北印度就是即马克什米亚的即个所在。
When he arrived in the kingdom of Kafiristan, which is now called Kashmir, Kashmir is that is in northern India.
所以咧，克什米亚的路上呢，有真侪豹甲虎，非常的危险，无法度搁再行落去了。
But the road going to Kashmir was full of tigers and leopards. It was very dangerous, and it was impossible for him to move forward and go on.
也有一天呢，伊忽然间去拄到一个老和尚，面咧拢生粒啊，身躯也有血粒，衫裤破破烂烂。
And one day during his travel, he suddenly saw an old monk with battered face, with blood stains all over his body, and he had ragged clothes on him.
也唔知影伊到底是对倒位来，所以玄奘法师就摕衫互伊换，啊，甲摕物件互伊食，而且搁再请教伊，若要去印度，有啥物款的方法会当避免到遮个危险的所在。
He didn't know where this old monk come from, but Master Xuanzang gave him anyway his clothes for him to wear and food for him to eat. And he asked his advice on how to avoid danger while traveling to India.
这个老和尚呢，就准啊教玄奘法师念这部圣经。
And that old monk taught Master Xuanzang to recite the Heart Sutra.
啊，玄奘法师伊学会晓圣经了，伊就定定念，吼，啊一路上安尼就平平安安到达印度。
So after Master Xuanzang was able to learn the Heart Sutra by heart, he was reciting it very, very often. And through the recitation, he was able to go on his way to India very safely.
老和尚甲玄奘法师念的这个圣经，伊是梵语。
And during that time, the Heart Sutra that was taught to Master Xuanzang by the old monk was in the Sanskrit language.
所以，当玄奘取经取好了，伊挖到转来中安城了后呢，玄奘法师就踮咧皇宫内底翻译经典，其中也包括这本心经。
After Master Xuanzang got the scriptures, and when he returned to Chang'an, Master Xuanzang lived in the imperial palace and translated the scriptures. And his translations included this Heart Sutra.
咱即马开始来讲经文，经文的头一句，
So let us now start with the scripture.
伊头一句就是观自在菩萨，观自在菩萨就是观世音菩萨。
The first line is 观自在菩萨. It means 观世音菩萨 or the Goddess Mercy.
伊的梵语就是读做阿瓦罗吉德娑巴，是观世音菩萨伊的名。
Also, Sanskrit pronounce it as Avalokitesava. It is the name of Kuan Yin Bodhisattva.
菩萨就是菩提萨埵，伊的简单写，梵语读做菩提萨巴。
So, Pusa or Bodhisattva is the abbreviation of Bodhisattva in Sanskrit. It is pronounced as Bodhisattva.
伊的意思就是讲，家己已经觉悟了，嘛要搁引导众生会当觉悟，会当转去理天的一个大天才。
It means that I am already enlightened and I want to guide all sentient beings to enlightenment and to be able to return to the supreme heaven.
当条进前，伊翻译是观世音，自从玄奘法师了后呢，玄奘法师开始呢，伊翻译做观自在。
Before the Tang Dynasty, it was translated as 观世音. And after Master Xuanzang translated the Heart Sutra, he changed the name 观世音 to 观自在.
观是观察甲观照的意思。
观 means observation and contemplation.
也就是用咱家己清净的心内底本来有的智慧来观照咱即马现在这个心。
And 观 means using our original wisdom, the original wisdom of our pure heart, and use it to observe our current polluted mind.
讲较白话，讲较白话，就是咱经过着修行，就是把酒修行，把咱的心念放空，心肝内什么拢莫想，互咱这个心转来甲咱原来拢无什么的这个状态。
So, to put it bluntly, it means through Soushin, we should empty our minds by concentrating on our wisdom door. Just not think of anything at the moment and let it return to our original state.
就是安尼一直修行，一直修咧等待另外一个新的念头，新的念头， 这个新的念头就是咱家己清净的心内底所有的智慧发出来，不是咱的头壳想出来。
So just keep concentrating through Soshen. Just patiently wait for a new thought or idea to come up. And this new thought is the original wisdom of our pure heart.
自在呢，伊是真安详、真放心，无惊无惊赢，也无担心，也无挂碍的，也无挂碍的代志，心肝内拢无这个代志。
And 自在 means there is no delusion in one's mind or the feeling is at ease. It is very peaceful, very at ease. It is fearless. There is no worry and nothing to worry about.
咱若是要了解什么叫做自在，咱就为了解讲什么叫做无自在开始。
So in order to understand what 自在 or no delusion in the mind or at ease means, we must first understand what delusion in the mind or ill at ease means.
咱即马譬如几个例来讲头一个例就是讲，当咱若有甲别人借钱借钱了咱还无还啦，心肝内是毋是会担心债主来甲咱讨钱，但是咱也无钱通还。
So let us give some examples to further explain 自在. When we borrow money from other people, we will be worried. We will worry that the debtor may come to collect the unpaid amount.
当咱欠别人的钱，咱还了咯，放下了咯，咱心肝内自然就袂搁再担心。这个时阵的心情，就是叫做轻松自在。
So once the money we owed others is repaid, we will naturally have no worry. We wouldn't have to worry about anything, and we will not worry in our heart. We will feel relaxed at all times.
第二个例，就是讲，当咱若做唔对代志，但是咱都无迄个勇气，通好承认咱家己唔对，这个时阵，咱会惊别人会知，别人会甲咱突破。
So example number 2, when we have done something wrong and we did not have the courage to admit our mistake, we will always be afraid that others might know what we have done wrong. And we are afraid also that other people who knew it might tell others that about our mistakes.
咱若是提出勇气，咱承认咱家己唔对，咱该道歉的，咱就道歉，该过的，咱就改过。
But when we can take the courage to admit that we have done something wrong, we will take the courage to apologize and we will change what we need to change.
这个时阵呢，咱害怕的心情就无去咯。这个时阵的心情就是叫做轻松自在咯。
So at this time, the feeling of fear will disappear and the mood at this moment will become happy and unrestrained or relaxed.
第三个例，就是譬如一个做妈妈的人，伊家己的囝去做兵，心肝内真袂放心，讲我这个囝毋知食饭食有饱无，毋知困有好势无，甲别人斗阵毋知好势，爱吵了伤忝袂，安尼伊袂放心。
So example number 3, as a mother, when her son goes to join the army, her heart will be at the state of being not at ease or being worried. She might be worried if his son can adjust to the life in army, or if her son can get along with her peers, or if her son can take all the exercises that were assigned to him.
当这个做兵的囝呢退伍了后，转来到妈妈的身躯边咯，这个时阵妈妈的心情就是轻松自在咯。
While afterwards, when the son who went to serve in the army was discharged from service and returned to his mother, the mother's mood at that moment is happy and unrestrained or worry-free.
第四个咧，就是咱常常拢会发生的代志吼，就是咱若对一项物件起了着贪心的念头，安尼就是会去拄着求不得的这个痛苦。
Example number 4, when we have greedy thoughts coming up, we will usher in the suffering of choputa, which means suffering from frustrations of not getting what we wish for.
过来，当咱若起了着这个嗔恨的念头的时阵吼，我们就会迎来怨憎会的念头。
When we have thoughts of hatred or resentment, we will then usher in the suffering of 怨憎会, which is the suffering from meeting with people whom we hate to see.
咱而家各加解说吼，所以讲，咱若气一个人，我真无爱甲伊相拄着，但是呢，偏偏毋知什么原因，就是会去拄着，这个叫做怨憎会。
So 怨憎会 is when we do not like certain person and we do not want to be with him at the same place, but still we often will meet him and be with him. That is 怨憎会。
过来，当咱若有这个痴心的时阵呢，咱就会迎来爱别离的痛苦。
And then when we have infatuated thoughts, we will usher in the suffering of I-Pieli, which is the suffering from being separated from a loved one.
咱再简单再解释，比如讲，我真爱我的丈夫，我真爱伊讲伊定定伫我的身躯边，譬如伊的公司要甲伊派去外国出差咯，安尼看袂着咯，安尼叫做爱别离。
So to further discuss this, an example is that when your husband, whom you want to be with every moment of your life, is assigned abroad to a job that is far away from your place, and you cannot be with him anymore. So that is I-Pieli.
那以上咱讲的这四个例吼，拢是互咱的心感觉真无自在。佛经内底讲的呢，这款的无自在的心呢，就是叫做凡夫。
So all of the above are feelings of being uncomfortable or delusions in the mind. Buddhist scriptures say that this is a fanfu or an ordinary being.
伊有一个名叫做具福凡夫，意思就是讲具就是完全啦吼，福就是束缚着，就是完完全全拢互这个无自在的痛苦甲咱绑掉的咯。
So the term 具福凡夫, it is an ordinary being who is completely bounded, which means to be completely tied up and to be bound by these uncomfortable sufferings.
就是因为咱定定去互这个无自在的苦甲咱绑掉的，所以咯，一直伫个六道内底轮回，无法度通转去离天。
And because we do not know how to get away from all these worries and sufferings, we will stay in these 6 realms of reincarnation with no means to return to heaven.
所以呢，凡夫就是去互束缚掉的，袂当自由自在。这就是因为因无妙智慧。
And the reason why an ordinary being is being bound or tied up and cannot be free is because an ordinary being has no mystical wisdom.
无明得到咱真实的道理，袂晓来受观世音菩萨的破例妙智慧。
And this ordinary being does not understand the truth and do not know how to cultivate the kind of prajna wisdom.
所以观世音菩萨都是因为伊有妙智慧，所以伊有法度通好自由自在。
And because Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva has wonderful wisdom or mystical wisdom, she can express, she can be very, very at ease all the time.
所以伊才有法度自由自在的发菩萨心，自由自在会去度人，用妙智慧引导着咱来度过生死的苦海，转去甲咱对岸苦海对面对岸的迄个李天国家乡。
That is the reason why Kuan Yin Pusa or Bodhisattva Kuan Yin is able to express the Bodhisattva's compassionate heart very freely, and she can freely persuade people to cross to the other shore and use her mystical wisdom to guide each and every one of us to be emancipated from the cycle of birth and death and to return to the hometown of the supreme heaven on the other shore.
所以东三宗法师伊才甲即个阿瓦罗基地旋伊翻译叫做观自在菩萨。
That is the reason why Master Chen called Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva as 观自在菩萨。
咱今日经文咱就暂且讲到这，不说落去就是咱后礼拜再继续讲。今仔日甲大家分享到这里。
So our discussion of the Heart Sutra will be up to this part first. We will continue our discussion next week.
讲无好的所在，咱请先佛慈悲下座的，请点灯师家向我做一个补充。咱感谢天文师弟，感谢点灯师，赐我向我这个机会，感谢各位前人大德，恁来收听，祝健康快乐，万事如意。咱后一回后礼拜再到空中再见。
If ever I have said or discussed anything wrong, may we request our Tian Chuan Si to add comments to my discussion. Thank you to Heaven's grace and to Teacher's virtue, and also to our Tian Chuan Si for giving me this opportunity to fulfill my vows. And thank you everyone for listening tonight. Wish everyone good health and happiness, and may everything that you wish for be fulfilled. Let us see each other in the air next week.
各位道亲好暗暝。
Good evening, everyone.
小客头先感谢9点传师甲电点传师助理，小客学习点的遮结伴。
First of all, I would like to thank our Zhou Tian Chuan Si and Tian Tian Chuan Si for giving me this chance to do the conclusions of our discussion tonight.
当然咧，嘛爱真正感谢今仔日暗暝，拢总有53个电脑甲 iPad， 还是讲手机入来遮，大家做伙来学习圣经。
And also, most especially, we want to thank the 53 gadgets who entered tonight into our Zoom meeting. These may be different computers, iPads, or even cell phones.
上重要的咧，咱就是爱感恩陈月英讲师，安尼遐尼详细，甲咱解说心经这部经迄个一寡要点甲伊的意义。
And most especially, we will have to thank our Chen Jiangsi. We have to be very grateful to her for discussing with us tonight about the Heart Sutra.
伊讲了真详细，讲一点钟的，到即马才讲观世的观自在菩萨头一句安尼。
So she was really discussing the Heart Sutra with us very well. That for 1 hour we have just discussed about the first phrase of the Heart Sutra, 观自在菩萨。
伊对迄个心经的对白，佮介绍即个心经的翻译者，然后开始豆豆解说伊的经文。
She even discussed with us about the meaning of the title of the Heart Sutra and also the person who translated the Heart Sutra.
咱各位就真爱了解心经是一部非常重要的修道的一个经典。
We have to understand that the Heart Sutra is a very important scripture for us cultivators.
是咱一寡修道人应该爱定定去甲活念，去甲持诵的一个经典。
So Heart Sutra is a sutra that we, the cultivators, should memorize and should recite it very often.
咱大家拢知影五种宗教内底咧，佛教的经典上多。
So we should know that from the 5 religions, it is the Buddhism that has the most sutras or scriptures.
你读到咱对少年伊读到头毛白读到规空，无一定读得完，做甲遮尔多。
There are so many scriptures for us to read and study that if we start learning them as a child, we may not even finish them until the time that we are going to pass away.
好伫咧，咱有这部心经，这个心经咧，伊短短260字，甲这个心这个作用，甲咱解释甲非常的清楚。
So we have to be very thankful that we have this Heart Sutra, which is very short. It has only 260 characters in it, and it discusses the heart very, very well.
那当咱了解伊这个经典的意思以后咧，咱要甲活念，要甲背起来，要甲持诵咧，就毋是一个困难的代志。
So if we can truly understand the meaning of the Heart Sutra, it will be very easy for us then to try to memorize and to recite it.
其實心經有幾個 edition， 幾個翻譯嘅迄個版本，幾個好幾個版本。
In fact, the Heart Sutra has many kinds of translation.
當然，心經就是對古印度文Sanskrit 翻譯過來。
So Heart Sutra was in Indian language, in the Sanskrit language.
翻譯嘅人咧，有嘅是印度人，伊學中文以後，會曉中文以後咧，再翻譯做中文。
So the translators may mostly be people from India, and after they learn and are proficient in Chinese, they tried to translate them into the Chinese language.
那么咱今仔所读的这262咧，是中国人伊学印度文以后，去印度遐取经会晓印度文以后咧，了解印度的迄个经典，再佫改对这本印度文的经典，甲翻译做中文。
And the 260 characters from the Heart Sutra were translated by Chinese who learned to know and understand the Indian Sanskrit and then tried to translate it from Indian language into Chinese language.
伊的中文基础甲伊的印度文的了解咧，对咱要学圣经的人来说咧是较过接受，较过了解。
So the level of understanding of the translator of the Indian language and also the Chinese language must be very high.
当然，心经是在讲心的这个经典嘛，咱大家修道就是要修心。
So Heart Sutra is a sutra that talks about the heart. And when we are cultivating, we know that we should cultivate from our heart.
咱下摆咱若有机会时阵哦，入去咧YouTube 也是讲 Internet 内面，咱去甲研究一下，咱会发觉讲，原来啊，这个玄奘法师1000年前，这个玄奘法师唐三藏玄奘法师咧，伊去对中国的西安即摆讲西安，早前叫做长安经过千辛万苦去印度去取经这个过程中啊咧也是一部真正伟大的一个心路历程。
So we can also search from the internet, or we can look it up from YouTube, and we will discover that Xuan Zhang Fa Si started his journey from Xi'an, which is now Chang'an, and he had encountered different kinds of difficulties in order for him to get the sutras.
你等想看卖，迄阵也无飞机通好坐，也无飞机通好爬。对中国行过遐侪沙漠，遐侪悬山，遐侪迄个高原，来到迄个克什米尔，来到北印度，中华迄个过程看千辛万苦，一细腻的，我无法度个形容的完完整整。
So let us just imagine that during that time there was no airplane. So Xuan Zhang Fa Si had to walk his way and to climb the different mountains in order to reach Kashmir. And the difficulty that he had encountered during that time is undescribable.
那伊伫克什米尔，他拄到这个和尚带这本经咧，助伊体会，助伊平平安安，会当到印度。所以这本经典咧，伫伊未了解以前咧，未捌印度文以前咧，就有真对就有一个显化，有一个灵感伫诶。
So it was very lucky that he was taught and presented with the Heart Sutra, which helped him during his travel to get the sutras from India. And we can see that during his travel, there were so many manifestations that he encountered.
那么咱一个修道修心这个人生的旅途中啊咧，咱若会晓时时去祈念的，一定真多。
So when we cultivate, we need to cultivate from our heart. So if we can learn the Heart Sutra by heart and we can recite it very often, it will really help us.
伊会用教咱安怎去治咱这个心，安怎去对待种种的心理上的种种的困难。
So Heart Sutra can teach us to face different difficulties that we are encountering during our life.
短短262咧，甲咱解释到非常的清楚。
And in just 260 characters, it is able to explain to us very clearly about our heart.
绝对是咱学道修道的人一个真要紧的经典。
So it is a very, very important sutra especially for us, the cultivators.
那么最近我科学家跟迄个心理的那个心理psychology 迄个专家咧，嘛已经我甲讲心经咧这部经典咧，对一般唔是修道的人来讲咧，伊嘛有心理能讲心理治疗心理疗愈的作用。
So even scientists and psychologists has discovered that Heart Sutra is very useful even to the non-cultivators.
心理疗愈、心理治疗
for the healing of the psychological portion of our body.
咱就爱好好利用这个几礼拜但讲师甲咱主持的时候，咱好好甲道理甲从清楚。
So we have to make good use of these few weeks when our Chen 讲师 is discussing the same thing with us.
一定对咱有很大的帮助。
If we can listen and learn from it, we will really be gaining a lot from this sutra.
后下伊嘛就简单做一个补充。
So our additional comment about the lecture will be up to here.
那么最後咧，後下以個人的一個經驗甲大家做一個分享。
So the Chan is going to share with us her personal experience.
後下嘅用過心經嘅一個分享。
An experience where she used Heart Sutra.
後下捌差不多20-30年前嘅時陣有一擺開車去別人家開班。
So about 30 years ago, Tian Chuan Si was driving to go to the temple in Batangas.
伊陣到阮厝內拄到買一頂新嘅塔馬勞 Power Steering 嘅迄個車買無幾禮拜，後下頭一擺開嘅 Power Steering 嘅迄個塔馬勞，去開去迄個別人家去開班煞轉啦。
So during time, Tian Chuan Si bought a Tamarao, and it was power steering. So it was the first time that she was driving a power steering vehicle, and she drove it herself to Batangas. And that night, when they were coming back to Manila,
第一要轉來時陣來到迄個highway 時陣頭一擺開迄個 power steering 還佫袂真會曉開啦欠慢慢去冰車。
So when they reached the highway, because it was the first time that she drove a power steering vehicle, they nearly met an accident.
尾下咧，迄個家己迄個緊張的時陣無法度抱學堂，嘛無法度安尼手現攏無法，伊個手就看到迄個 power， 看到迄個方向盤家己敢若大聲佇咧心肝內面喊大聲喊一個講老師主比你毋通互我出代志，因為迄天我迄頂車內底有幾啊個青年道請甲我做伙去。包括迄個家己甲第二部。
So because it was her first time to drive a power steering vehicle, she was not yet very well adjusted to its functions, and when they nearly met an accident, Tian Chuan Si can't even hold her hand sign because she had to hold on to the wheel of the vehicle. So what she did was just to shout in her heart, 老师慈悲, because during that time, there were some young cultivators in the car, including our brother Danny Boy and our Susan, Sister Cathy.
迄阵若出代志的时，我毋知要安怎对因的家长交代。
Because when something happened, Tian Chuan Si was thinking, what can I say to the parents of these young people?
安尼讲无偌久以后咧，在伊个方向盘去互我掠载咯，无冰车，就那平安行过迄站，迄个咁要冰车迄站，互我行过咯。
So after a while, she realized that she can again control the wheel of the car, and they were back into safety.
伊赶到我做伙，伊赶少年家拢毋知影，但是我嘛静静开车开转来到马尼拉咯。
And the young people and the young cultivators who were with the Tian Chuan Si in the car never knew what happened that night, and they safely drove back to Manila.
转来到马尼拉11、12点嘛。
It was nearly 12 o'clock in midnight when they reached Manila.
转来到厝内，家己非常的惊吓，就跪伫佛堂内底一直拜一直叩首。我会记我伊也毋知叩几千个叩首，就是感恩讲无我出代志。
So after reaching their home, Tian Chuan Si's fear did not get away. She was still so afraid of what happened earlier. So upon reaching home, she kneeled down and performed more than thousands of vows.
毋知是几千个，家己也袂记啊，拜足多吼，拜足久诶。伊也毋开始有困去啊，对伊也毋开始连续规礼拜，就是逐暗要困的时阵，就是会做噩梦。
So from that night on, every night when Tian Chuan Si goes to sleep, she will have nightmares about what happened.
连续规礼拜拢是做噩梦，安尼，家己拢安尼喘起来，忘记讲迄阵要冰车迄个遐惊吓迄个心，迄个规个人安尼忽然间就来起起来安尼吼，困袂去啊。
So every night for more than a week, she will dream of what happened, the incident that they nearly had an accident will always repeat in her dreams, and she will just wake up and cannot go back to sleep anymore.
尾后无法度咧，就是逐工逐暗哦，咧困以前就是背活念圣经。
So she didn't know what else to do. So every night before she sleeps, she will recite the Heart Sutra.
尤其念到迄个内面有一句吼，无有恐惧，远离颠倒妄想，就近涅槃。
So especially when she reaches the portion that says 无有恐惧，远离颠倒梦想，
就近涅槃。
就近涅槃。
念到遐就家己特别一直该念到大声，无有恐怖，远离颠倒梦想，无有恐怖，远离颠倒梦想。
So when she reaches that part of the sutra, she will try to recite it louder than usual.
安尼吼，连续念几暗以后咧，就袂做噩梦啊。
So after a few nights,
安尼看精神啊。
So after a few nights of reciting the Heart Sutra, the dreams or the nightmare, little by little disappeared.
所以有时阵吼，咱可能咱日常生活中会拄有这款惊吓的迄个状况，也是讲拄着压力大 distress 的状况，咱来念圣经咧，心理学家甲咱见证，讲念这个部经典，对咱有真大的帮助。
So during our daily life, when we meet some incidents or when we have pressures in our life, we can always recite the Heart Sutra, and it will be of great help to our situations.
尤其咱若常常去想一寡烦恼的啦、忧愁的啦、未解决的， 会问到的时阵咧，咱上好莫一直甲想落去，咱就安尼小停起来，或念心经。
So especially when we are in the state of being worried, when we have problems that we do not know the solution, we may just for a while forget about these problems and start our recitation of the Heart Sutra.
这就是晓法伫咧今仔日结班的10分钟内底咧，要甲各位道亲分享晓法嘅经验。
So for the last 10 minutes, I have shared with everyone my experience.
这是咱有法度，互咱家己有自我疗愈的一本的迄个心的经典。
So it is a sutra that can help us to heal ourselves during times when we meet some things that we cannot solve.
晓法简单说到这，希望晓法所说的，咱大家拢听有，拢会了解。
And I hope that what I have said a while ago is understood by everybody.
那么咱今仔日班就简单到这，祝各位道亲大家身体健康，事事如意。
So our discussion will be end at this point, and we wish everyone to have good health and that everyone will have what they have wished for.
我们结伴。